So good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. It's our pleasure to run our third meeting of the month after trying out last week an evening meeting at 6 o'clock that if you could not attend, you can see on the recording. And it was a small group, but quite a good atmosphere. And we also had the competition taking place over the weekend at a higher level, and Nicole attended that and sent us some comments on it. So that's great. Before I turn over to the Toastmaster of the day, I would like to welcome Ivana Garden, who I understand was a previous area director. And maybe I turn over to you to just say a few words, and it's good to have you on our meeting. Ivana, over to you.
Yeah. Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters. My name is Ivana Gardon, and I have been working for IAA since 2011. I joined Toastmasters in April 2018, and I had mainly one goal: to improve my English and some small other goals. Learn public speaking basics and get used to the present in front of the audience. So it was my plan, the year 2018, but very soon I noticed all the other opportunities the membership gives. And I became a very dedicated member of the organization. My home club is World Voices at the United Nations. And there I practiced, evolved, made plenty of mistakes, and gained some great experience. I served as VP membership, president, and sergeant at arms since the very beginning until now, and I plan to continue doing it. In terms of my educational goals, I'm about to finish 2 paths in Pathways: innovative learning in English and leadership development in Spanish. In the only Spanish-speaking club in Manhattan called Cervantes, I found a platform for my Spanish skills training. And this term, I'm also president of this club. I have to say, I have been using all opportunities Toastmasters International offers. I was working, as you mentioned, as the 42nd area director in the District 46 last year. And I was nominated recently 12th area director in the District 119, both in New York. Also, I organized contests, officer trainings, and other events at the club, area, division, and district level. As the technology and current situation allow virtual meetings, I'm very happy to visit clubs over the world, and I'm very happy to be with you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivana, for your presentation. You've done it in a very elegant and coherent manner. Well done for that. And without any further ado, I will turn over to our Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Ines.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, Ivana. We have a full meeting today. Wonderful. And yesterday, when I looked at the agenda, I thought, wow, I disappeared for a while. And you were wondering, perhaps, where is she? In a way, I would say I had something which really made a lot of changes in me within a time span of a week. And I'm also happy to share with you what I did. I was called suddenly to create the cremation of my mom in Holland. And I had to pack, go, and I was able to do it within 24 hours. At the same time, I was also able to use my Toastmaster skills at a cremation. So as you see, Toastmasters is very useful for all occasions which have to do with our life situations, whether it is a job, whether it is a happy event, whether it is also a sad event. But I was really able to put something together where people after the cremation felt, wow, I feel good about the whole issue, and we have to celebrate life. Why do I say this? I would like to request a 1 minute silence for all the people. If you look at, for example, what's happening in India at the moment, 1 minute silence. This is all what I ask as Toastmaster of the Day for all who left in 2020 and in 2021 up to now. And I would ask, please, Pinar, Toastmaster Pinar, to time this 1 minute.
Yeah, sure. Let's start. One minute over.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Pinar. As I mentioned, we have a full schedule, a full meeting today, and I would like to thank also Melanie and Toastmaster Maria Teresa to put the agenda together. And I would like to request that we look at the, oops, sorry, I'm just disappearing, sorry. That we look at the agenda. We have 2 speakers with evaluators who are seasoned, very interesting. We have a table topics session, and we also have a full job for the general evaluator. And I would like to ask Toastmaster Lily to be the general evaluator for today's meeting. Toastmasters Lily, could I ask you to present your team today?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day. So allow me to introduce the team, and I thank you, team, for volunteering in advance, which I did not do. And here I am as the general evaluator, and I think we all know what the different roles are. So the R counter, Gabriella, will give us the filler words. We had a meeting a while ago, actually it's probably more than 6 months ago, where we decided we would not go through all the rigmarole of everybody describing their roles when it's not necessary because of the time that it takes. And since we don't have any other visitors today, I hope you'll forgive me for foregoing that. Allow me to point out for the timekeeper that Pinar, could you please show us how you will show us the times and tell us, you can perhaps give us a short introduction to how you will show us the times.
Yeah, sure. Greetings, Madam Toastmaster and fellow Toastmaster and guests. As timer, I will time to table topic speakers, formal speeches, and evaluations. I will also alert each speaker of the time have left using green cards, yellow cards, and red cards, which denote specific times remaining. Table topic speakers should limit their remarks to no more than 2 minutes. At 1 minute, I will raise the green card. At 1 minute and 30 seconds, I will raise the yellow card. At 2 minutes, I will raise the red card. Those giving speeches should limit their remarks to their specific speech times. I don't think so. There is no icebreaker speaker today. So most other speeches should be 5 and 7 minutes in length. At 5 minutes, I will raise the green card. At 6 minutes, I will raise the yellow card. And 7 minutes, I will raise the red card. The individual evaluations should be between 2 and 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, I will raise the green card. And 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I will raise the yellow card. And 3 minutes, I will raise the red card. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Back to you.
Thank you, Pinar. Arcanta Gabriela, I mentioned, and grammarian Jessica. Do you have a word of the day?
Thank you, Toastmaster Lily. I do have a word of the day, and it is reminisce. I will put this in the chat after I define it. So it means to indulge in the process or practice of thinking or telling about past experiences. So for example, a sentence would be, after the official reunion ceremony, the old friends gathered in a pub to reminisce about their high school days. So again, the word of the day is reminisce. Back to you, Lily.
Thank you, Jessica. I believe that introduces our evaluation team, and the first evaluator will be Tristan Bauswein, and the second evaluator, Melanie Fatsy. We don't use the second name in our meetings. We usually just introduce first name basis. So there we go. I think that's it. And I will give a general evaluation afterwards. Thank you very much. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. We can start with the speeches. And I would like to ask the first speaker, who is Judith, to get ready. And at the same time, to ask her evaluator, who is a seasoned one, Tristan, to introduce the objectives of her speech. Toastmaster Tristan.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day, and it's my honor today to introduce the objective of Judith's speech. She's in the persuasive influence path. She's on the evaluation and feedback, and the second speech on that. So she either presents a new speech or the same speech that incorporates some or all of the feedback received from the presentation of her first speech. And we're looking forward to assess, so based if she was able to integrate the evaluation and the feedback received on the first speech. As I have done this speech just a few months ago, it's a good reminder for me of what this speech is about. And that completes my introduction. Back to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Tristan. So we will reminisce in the presentation of Judith, if I have used the word properly. Judith, your speech is the most beautiful day in Catalonia, and you have asked for 5 to 7 minutes. Toastmaster Judith, let's welcome Toastmaster Judith for her third speech.
Thank you, Toastmaster Ines. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, today I would like to share something about my region. In case you don't know, I'm from Barcelona, which is in the region of Catalonia, in the northeast of Spain. And of course, Catalonia has, Spain has many diverse, it's very diverse, and each region has its own traditions, but of course, we share many of these traditions. But there are some that are very, very specific of each region. And this is the case of the celebration of the 23rd of April, which was last Friday. In Catalan, we call it La Diada de Sant Jordi, which in English means St. George's Day. In the 15th century or so, I think, Sant Jordi, I will call it Sant Jordi to Catalanize it a bit. Sant Jordi became the patron saint of Catalonia, and And rose markets started to pop out there on that specific day, every day. And these markets represented the rose that St. George gave to the princess that he saved from the dragon. And since then, it has become a tradition in Catalonia to give one red rose, to the women that men love. So women can get, I mean, this includes also women like your wife, your girlfriend, a crush, but also your mom, your grandmom, your daughter, your teacher, a friend. So I think this is very beautiful. Coming back to those markets, eventually also book-stalls appeared on those markets to commemorate the legend of San Jordi. And then it became also a tradition for women to give a book to men. And that's how, through roses and books, this has become one of the most beautiful days in Catalonia. You might be wondering if this has changed, and yes, it has changed. The tradition has evolved, and of course, now women, we do get books, and men, of course, they get flowers, roses, if they want. So yes, everyone gets something on that day. The magic of this day is also that it's a working day. So people go to work, everything is open, all the shops are open. So you get to interact more with people, and you can get a rose from your boss, from a coworker, or even from the bakery. So at the end of the day, you end up with a bunch of roses, which is really nice. Of course, some of them are nicer, not nicer, but more important than others, depending on who has given it to you. So Gaudí, if you know Gaudí, the architect, he was also a lover of this celebration, and he dedicated a whole building to it. And this is Casa Batlló. This is one of the most famous buildings in Barcelona, and the architecture is inspired by the legend of Sant Jordi. So if you see it, particularly the rooftop, it represents the back of the dragon. And also on that day, as you see, all the balconies are decorated with red roses. So it's really, really beautiful. The downside of this day is that it tends to get really, really crowded. So if you walk around the city, it's full of people, but I guess that's part of the charm of that day. Of course, this year and last year, it's been different because of the pandemic, but it will get better eventually, I hope. Something that I also wanted to share with you regarding that day is that this day for Catalans, it's our St. Valentine's Day. So we do not celebrate St. Valentine's Day, we celebrate Sant Jordi. And I think it's beautiful because we celebrate love, like the romantic love, but also love with family and friends, which is really nice. And also we celebrate culture, and specifically Catalan culture. So you get to get books. Also, if you walk around the city, there are many flags, regional flags. So it's I think the combination of these books, roses. Also, it's April, so it's spring. It's nice. It's warm. It's sunny. It's in Spain, so it's a nice weather, nice atmosphere. So it makes it this day like a really, really beautiful day. So if you have the chance to be on a 23rd of April in Barcelona, I can tell you that you will experience one of the most beautiful Catalan traditions. So I invite you to go if you can, whenever we can. Thank you. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Judith. Thank you. This is a beautiful tradition. And thank you for sharing it with us. And you are really an ambassador of Catalonia. Keep it up. Thank you. I would like to ask the Toastmasters now to take 1 minute to give some brief comments, notes, evaluations to Toastmaster Judith by using the chat function. Can I ask Toastmaster Pinar to do the timing?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
1 minute is start.
Thank you.
Yeah, 1 minute is over.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Pinar. Our speeches today have a lot to do with men and women. Interesting. And Toastmaster Monica will tell us something about the Matilda effect. But before we are asking her to take the stage, speaker stage, could I please ask Toastmaster Melanie to give the objectives of the speech. Monica.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day, Inez. And to start off, Monica is actually doing her second speech of level 1. She's on the pathway called Motivational Strategies. And this path will help build skills as a powerful and effective communicator. It culminates in a comprehensive team building project that will bring all of her skills together, including the public speaking. It's going to help her practice some motivation and leadership. So her purpose for this speech today, she's researched a topic and she's going to present to us on this well-researched and hopefully well-organized speech. And I will pass it back over to our Toastmaster of the Day, Inez, to again repeat the title.
Thank you, Toastmaster Melanie, as the evaluator. Toastmaster Monica, the Matilda Effect, Women in Science. Please, Toastmaster Monica.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. I will talk to you today, as Toastmaster Ines said, about the Matilda Effect. So what is the Matilda Effect? The Matilda Effect describes this effect that many great women in science, their achievements are forgotten and the credit is given to men. I will tell you the story of a woman, of a great scientist, a biologist, molecular biologist actually, who lived in Britain in 1920. She was born in Britain in 1920, in a time where women have very difficult access to university. Actually, it was expected from women to marry, to have children. And if they were wealthy, they would perhaps engage in charity, but that's it. Rosalind Franklin didn't want to follow this path. And she changed the way of doing things. We know about her story because one of the protagonists of this story later on wrote a book. The book is called The Double Helix, where he described the way he treated Rosalind Franklin. Rosalind Franklin was a woman, so he didn't take her serious. He thought, okay, a woman, she cannot know much. So he treated her in a very discriminative way, and actually told the story in a very arrogant manner in his book. So back to Rosalind Franklin, as I mentioned to you, she was born in Britain in 1920. From her early age, she demonstrated already that she had a very strong capacity for studying and for maths and science, what was not very common at the time. She became a scholarship to study at Cambridge, where she later on got her PhD in mathematics and physics. She went afterwards to Paris, where she learned this technique called crystallography. Crystallography is a technique used to get access to the structure of molecules. She became an expert in this technique. And later on, when she went back to London to work at the King's College, she used to take this technique to work with DNA. What is DNA? You know, the DNA is the deoxyribonucleic acid that allows you to transmit the characteristics, the hereditary characteristics from one generation to the other. At this laboratory at King's College, Rosalind Franklin meets with another scientist, a male scientist called Wilkins. Wilkins, perhaps you have heard about his name. He was also working on the DNA, but he thought that Rosalind Franklin, because she was a woman, she would be his assistant. Actually, he didn't take her serious and was constantly diminishing her work. It was a very difficult situation for Rosalind Franklin. She was to work independently. She was a very professional woman, and she had her own team. So with her knowledge about crystallography, she started doing experiments and taking photos of the DNA. She took 1 photo, 2 photos, 3 photos, and finally her photo number 51. There she discovered that actually the structure of the DNA had the form of a double helix. You can see it in the back here. This is the form of the DNA structure. This was an amazing discovery for the time and really something that astonished the whole world. But unfortunately, the relationship between Rosalind Franklin and her colleague Wilkins got really toxic. And it got so bad that Rosalind decided to quit her job there and to go and work somewhere else. Before she left, her boss actually, he told her to leave all her research in that laboratory, and even this photo number 51, where she demonstrated that the structure of the DNA had the form of a double helix. So even worse, it got even worse because her former colleague Wilkins took this photography and all the research work of Rosalind Franklin and gave it to a group of scientists. You might have heard about them, Watson and Crick. These 3 men published all this work and actually became famous for discovering the structure of DNA. They even got in 1962 a Nobel Prize, and the Nobel Prize of Medicine. And they didn't even consider mentioning the name of Rosalind Franklin in their award-winning speeches. So this is a very typical example of the unjust treatment of women in science. Rosalind Franklin, unfortunately, she passed away in 1958. She didn't even know that these men took her job, her work, and published it as its own, to their own actually. And she passed away because she got cancer, ovarian cancer, due to the prolonged exposure of radiation. This radiation she used for her technique of crystallography. You know that many scientists, women scientists in the past, unfortunately, have passed away to exposure or to radiation. So she was one of them. So she had to struggle in a world where men dominated everything. She was not recognized for her findings, for her research. She didn't get the Nobel Prize. But despite all of these things, her legacy continues. Fortunately, years later, her work was recognized. And actually, there is even an award nowadays that's called Rosalind Franklin Award. She also gave her name to a university in USA. And her famous picture, the photography number 21 or 51, pardon, this picture is present nowadays in all the biology books all over the world. So she is still with us, and I think she will never be forgotten. Thank you. Back to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Monica. Very relevant information for the time we're living in, especially when we see that also the RNA technology is now being used in medical science, which is, I understand, also derived from the work done in the DNA area. Okay. Thank you very much. Can I also ask now Toastmasters for 1 minute, or Pina for 1 minute, so that the Toastmasters can give their comments, brief evaluations, reactions, etc. in the chat function, using the chat function. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it started. One minute is over.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Pinar. Another very essential part of the Toastmasters meeting is the table topics. And Toastmaster Maria Teresa will help us to think on our feet. Could I now ask Toastmaster Maria Teresa to come to the stage, to the podium, and give her table topics.
Thank you, Toastmaster Ines. Fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests, I always believe it's good to know why you're doing something, the purpose. So I'm sure everybody knows why we do table topics, but I'll repeat a few things. The idea is to give everybody who doesn't have a major role an opportunity to speak in a Toastmaster meeting. Secondly, to encourage you to use all the skills you've learned in Toastmasters into a table topic. A strong start, continuing with the body, and a strong conclusion. Now, I'm not going to ask you impossible questions because that's not the point. The idea is to be fluid, to react, and to think on your feet. So let's get started. Are you all nervous? What is she going to ask? I love movies. Sunday evening, actually Monday morning, I stayed up late to watch the Oscars because I'm a big fan of films. This year's ceremony was not like any other Oscar presentation, but somehow they managed to pull it off. But what I want to ask a couple of people are things about films, movies, so on and so forth. My first person to ask is Toastmaster Silla. What is the very first movie you ever saw? And did you like it or not? Toastmaster Silla.
Thank you, Maria Teresa, for that question. Fellow Toastmasters, I am from Hong Kong originally, so my very first movie, it has to be a Hong Kong movie. And we have this tradition during Chinese New Year whereby most of us would have holidays and you spend time with your family, and most shops are actually closed during those times of the year. It's like only a few days that shops would be closed, but the cinema would be open. And that's the time when we check out all these movies about cinemas. And because of that tradition, we have specific movies that only came out during Chinese New Year. And usually they are happy movies, comedies, everyone would be enjoying it. I still remember that time there was a whole series. Somehow it was a very popular series back then. It was about gambling. There are certain people who are really good in terms of gambling, and I really wanted to watch that movie because it was a big hit. But me and my family, when we got into the cinema, it was only the first row that was left. And I still remember I told my dad, no, we had to watch it because it's a really good one. But of course, I regretted that decision a lot because the whole time you were like, your neck was just like really painful and tiring. But yeah, my very first movie, I don't really remember the content very much anymore, but it reminds me a lot about good time that I spent with my family during Chinese New Year when the movie is actually, the cinema is a place where it brings people together, and we laugh together, and because of that common experience. So I hope that we would all be able to get to the cinema again very soon. Back to you, Maria Teresa.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sela. You were reminiscing, and I will go back and tell you the first movie I saw was probably a Disney movie, maybe something like Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty or something like that. And as a child, I was so impressed with it. But as I got older, I started to get a little bit more sophisticated. In fact, fellow Toastmasters, I confess, at the age of 16, I wanted to be a film director. Believe it or not. So I started looking at French movies, Jean-Luc Godard, Truffaut, Kubrick, Spielberg, Lucas, and now in this day and age, Tarantino, Scorsese. I could rattle them off. But I'm curious, Toastmaster Nicole, is film an art form or is it entertainment? Is film meant to express art or meant to entertain us? Toastmaster Nicole. Well, it appears what you see is not necessarily what you get. So let me find the next person to ask. And I don't think we're making many grammatical mistakes, so I'm going to approach Jessica with this question. Do you consider film to be art or entertainment? What's your call on this?
Thank you, Toastmaster Maria Teresa. It's an interesting question. I think over the years, it's changed for me. When I was younger, when I remember seeing the first movie I ever saw in theaters, which was Lion King, I remember being very entertained and that being the purpose of going to the theater and watching movies. But as you grow up and as you experience different things in your life, I think when you watch films, you start to connect to some of the storylines, and it becomes like an artistic expression that you can relate to other people through. So I think it depends. That would be my answer, is it depends. There's certainly films that you go to watch with the intention of just being entertained and kind of turning your mind off. But there are some films you go to watch because they're beautifully shot. The dialogue is excellent. Maybe they have an actor and actress in it that you really admire the skill set of. So yeah, to repeat my answer, I would say it's both entertainment and art. Back to you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jessica. I agree with you. Some movies I go to see to be wild, to think, to be stimulated, and other movies I just want to escape. Let's think of Star Wars, for example, and that genre. Speaking of genre, there are so many different types of movies. You have comedy, you have history, you have Westerns, you have, I don't know, crime, you have thrillers. Toastmaster Karen, what type of movie appeals to you? Which movie would you go to see out of the genres I've mentioned?
Thank you very much, Madam Maria Teresa, Table Topics Master. I honestly enjoy very much every type of genre from movies, from horror to thrillers, comedies, romantic comedies mostly. And I was reflecting actually on my favorite movie of all times, and I have to say it's Life is Beautiful. This is a drama with Roberto Benigni. I'm sure you all know it. And I think one of the things I love the most about this movie, like besides the story behind it and the beautiful music, it's the main character, like how he transformed what was a complete disaster, a complete drama that he and his family were living into a game, into a funny game for his kid. And I think that movie pictures like the love that a father can have for his child, and yeah, what he can make things. He can make reality things that may seem impossible. And yeah, I love very much watching all kind of movies. Thank you for your question. Back to you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Karen. I agree with you. So I ask our timer, sorry, Pinar, but I want to give you a chance to speak in this meeting. Considering COVID, would you now go into a movie theater? I understand in Austria, things are going to be opening up on the 19th, but would you feel comfortable watching a movie at this point?
Thank you for the question. I hope I understand your question correctly. Yeah, I missed to go to the cinema movie to watch something. Actually, before the COVID, I wish I had known how much this special time I wish I had known how much this special time I used it. If I know that, I like to use this time. Sorry again, and I am really sorry. I forget to monitor my time. Anyway, hope after COVID I will go to again movie if I find a way to. Hope I will find. I will make a time for it because of after having kids doesn't allow to me make time to go to the cinema easily. Anyway, yesterday I explored a new Turkish movie, but unfortunately it is cancelled because of the COVID situation. I mean, there is no big opening for this movie. I'm looking forward to watch it. I hope after COVID I can make it. Yeah, thanks again for this speech chance. Back to you, Marisa.
Thank you, Toastmaster Pinar. You never have to apologize in Toastmasters. Never, never, never. And thank you for your quite competent answer. I'm sure we're all dying to get back into a movie theater. But let's go back to the Oscars. Ordinarily, guests are not given table topics questions, but since we have a very experienced Toastmaster here, I'm going to go outside of that particular practice and ask her a question. So you know who I'm talking about, Toastmaster Ivana. Back to the Oscars. The acceptance speech. You've just won the Oscar for Best Actress or Best Director. What do you say when you're on the stage?
I have to admit that for a very long time in my life, I haven't watched TV at all, and long time, it is more than 20 years. Only when I moved to New York 5 years ago, I started to watch TV and got a little bit addicted to Netflix. So I'm not very familiar with the Oscar events, but 3 years ago, I went to Chicago to attend the International Toastmasters Conference. And I really felt there like being at the Oscar Gala. It was an amazing and very impressive event. So I already forgot what you asked me, but I believe it was something about what I would say on the occasion I'm on stage and accept the Oscar statue. I would say thank you and probably cry afterwards or if I'm lucky and my voice is not shaking, I would say a few more words. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Ivana. I happened to listen to some of these acceptance speeches, not just, because I like the actors, but from a Toastmaster point of view. The woman that impressed me the most was the Korean who won Best Supporting Actress. She was actually flirting with Brad Pitt in front of all those people and a television audience. She was like a stand-up comic. She was absolutely brilliant. They used to say back in the old days, and the winner is, but now they say, the Oscar goes to. I say the winner goes to everybody here in Toastmasters, and particularly those of you who ventured outside your comfort zone to deliver a table topic. So now, Madam Timer, we need 1 minute for our members to submit their ballots to the ballot counter, who happens to be, I have to check the agenda, 1 minute to submit your ballot for who was the best table topic speaker. And that should be going to Toastmaster Karen. I'll go back and refresh your memory. We're going to reminisce again. We had Scylla, we had Jessica, we had Karen, we had Pinar, and we had Ivana.
Yeah. 1 minute is over.
Thank you, Toastmaster Pinar. So with this, I return control of the meeting to our Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Ines.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Maria Teresa. That was a wonderful, very creative way of presenting also the table topics. Wonderful. Also, we had great stories and great answers. Could I now turn control of the meeting to the general evaluator for the evaluation session, Toastmaster Lily.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day. So we go now into the evaluation session of our meeting, and I would like to call upon our first evaluator to give us an evaluation of the first speaker. Trista, please give us your evaluation of your speech.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. And it's my honor to give the feedback on Judy's speech. First of all, I think we were not disappointed by what we heard based on the title, The Most Beautiful Day in Catalonia. And I think you really nailed it. We got what the title was announcing, and you communicated in a very passionate and enthusiastic manner. I learned something about this day in Catalonia. I had no idea it existed. And I come out of your speech with gaining some knowledge and some culture. So I felt very good about it. And I thought you displayed the ability to not overpack content into a speech. We all have a tendency to try to put too much information, and you kept it to the essence of that day, a rose, a book, and how it felt in society. And I think that's very important from a lasting impact. I think so. Well done for that. The only thing which I was not sure is, I don't know when that day happens. You say it's a work day, so, but did you say when it is that day in the year, or I didn't get it. So I probably wasn't very attentive on that things. From a posture, It was very good. It was interesting. You were smiling at some occasion in a good way. So it was, you had facial expression that were evolving, and you could see some enthusiasm on specific part of your speech. You watch out on your shoulders. You use a lot your shoulders like this at some stage. It's a body gesture, but is that the message you want to say? But I thought it was quite visible. At some stage in the second part of your speech, your Iberic origin came and your hands started raising, and that was good. I thought a very beautiful use of your hands in your speech. Watch out at some stage, especially at the beginning, you were looking down. I don't know if you have notes there or what you were looking for. And it's always a bit difficult with a camera. We don't know if people are looking at their picture in the screen or they're looking at their note or we're not always thinking about looking at the camera. So watch out from this. And the last point is, I think you were very comfortable. I think you were at ease. You were mastering your topic and the emotion you wanted to share. You could have had a bit of a more stronger opening and closing. I was a bit taken aback by your closing. So it was so sudden. Given all what you said about that beautiful day, you could have spin it around a story or about a more powerful way of closing. So on that note, I think you've done a very interesting speech, a very good speech. And I like the way you delivered and how you communicated the emotion on that memorable day in Catalonia. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Tristan. The second speech will be evaluated by Melanie, and it is Monica's speech. I hand over now to Melanie.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. I get the honor of evaluating Monica's speech, which I found quite interesting because I knew nothing about Rosalind Franklin before. So, Monica, you started off very well describing the effects that women have in a male-dominated field like the sciences. I liked how you started telling a story to us, and you mentioned the history and the fact that she had a book written from another man, and this gave me a background because as someone who really didn't know anything about this, you could tell that you did your homework. You went out there and you researched the subject that must be dear to you. So I was looking for that effect. That's the thing that I was missing. Just what did this Rosalind Franklin have on you as a person, to make me feel that you had the connection between her, maybe your life and how you've struggled working in the UN, or just a more personal story. But I liked how you had the photo in the background because it had us as your audience connecting to this idea of science and what actually DNA and a double helix was. Again, I didn't know what that was. So that was very informative for me. And to motivate us, because that's what you're doing in this pathway, is practicing your motivation and your leadership. So show us the motivation you have to change that dynamic, that gender inequality, put some more emotion. Your tone of voice was very steady throughout. I could see your eyes looking at the camera the whole time. That you were very engaged in your topic. I never saw you once look down. So you really knew what you were talking about. You've done all of your research. Again, the only thing, the beginning and the end, you started out by telling us a story about Rosalind, maybe end with something, she died never getting the obviously the Nobel Prize or even knowing, but that this was brought to the attention of her family, and that's why today there are more books written about her. Otherwise, I think you nailed a very difficult subject, because science, women, it's very popular today, and I think it's a theme we can all, mostly as women and maybe even men, our gender champion in the room, can relate to. So thank you, well done.
Thank you, Melanie. Next, I call on our grammarian to tell us about what was good or bad in our presentations, and perhaps even appoint a grammarian's crown and tell us how many people use the word reminisce or reminiscence.
Thank you, General Evaluator Lily. So good news and congrats to everyone. There were very few mistakes, but I'll just go through a few examples. In Monica's speech, I noticed that she used the plural of woman when sometimes you should use the singular. So for example, you said many great women, or sorry, the other way, using the singular and you should use the plural. Many great women are forgotten. So it'd be many great women are forgotten. Pinar, I noticed in your speech, you said the COVID. So before the COVID, you would go to the movie theaters, but you can leave the out and just say before COVID. And Tristan, I noticed you said when you were asking Judith about the message she wanted to communicate, you said, is that the message you want to say? But I would say the message you want to communicate. So very minor things, but just a few things I picked up on. Regarding the word of the day, Ines used it once and Maria Teresa used it twice. And I did not catch any other uses. Also, I forgot to use it. So I feel like I failed in my duties. But I have decided that the grammarian's crown of the day will go to Scylla for her excellent table topics on Hong Kong cinema at Chinese New Year. So congratulations, Scylla. And back to you, Lily.
Thank you, Jessica. Congratulations, Scylla. Next, I'd like to call upon our timekeeper, Pinar, to tell us what our times were.
Yeah, thank you. Almost everyone was on the time. First speaker, Judith, 5 minutes, 49 seconds. Second speaker, Monica, 6 minutes, 53 seconds. And first evaluator, Tristan, 3 minutes and 3 seconds. Second evaluator, 2 minutes, and second evaluator, Melanie, 2 minutes and 32 seconds. Table topic speaker, Scylla, 1 minute, 58 seconds. Jessica, 1 minute, 13 seconds. Karen, 1 minute, 8 seconds. I couldn't follow my speech. Ivana, 1 minute and 2 seconds. Yeah, back to Lily. Bye.
Thank you, Pinar. Our art counter, Gabriella, tell us how much would we be fined virtually if we were in the room?
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. I had to say that I was so engaged in some of the speeches that sometimes I forgot to pay attention. But here's my report. Pinar, 3 times. Tristan, 3 times. Judith, 9. Monica, 6. Melanie, 1. Karen, 2. And Ivana, 2. Thank you. I return the control to the General Evaluator.
Thank you, Gabriella. And finally, our ballot counter, drum roll. Karen will announce the winner of the table topics.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Today's Oscar for the best table topics goes to Scylla. Congratulations. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Gabriella. Karen. And for my general evaluation, okay, the meeting started off without a general evaluator, even though we had it on the program. So that was a bit of a spontaneous jump in. And we have very experienced Toastmasters, so I'm happy to have fulfilled that role for you. I found it was very interesting and wonderful how each of us in this virtual meeting who had roles already labeled themselves with their roles, making it much easier to recognize the roles of the speakers, the ballot counters, the evaluators. And I think that is an immense progress in our growth, in our experience, having these virtual club meetings. I was very pleased to see Ivana in our meeting. I don't know if we've seen her before. She looks so familiar. And she said she worked at the IAEA in 2011, Ivana. What really struck me, which, you know, I was an NGO representative before I started working at the VIC in 2009 for the IAEA. And whenever people talked about the UN, when they came from New York, it was as if New York was the only place where the UN was. So I was a bit surprised, Ivana, when you said, I'm in the UN Toastmasters, because we are the UN Toastmasters here at the VIC in Vienna, at the Vienna United Nations headquarters. So it was just, I recognized in myself a certain prejudice or a certain preconceived idea, or my concept that the people in New York at the United Nations think that they're the only ones. So that was just a bit of a personal comment about the UN and the Toastmasters clubs. And I'm very happy that we are connecting with one another. There is also a Toastmasters club in Geneva. So I hope we can have more to do with one another and use the opportunities during these online meetings to hop around and visit other clubs around the world. I was very pleased with the way that Maria Teresa explained the role, the purpose of table topics. Sometimes it feels like it's got a slightly different purpose, and the point is to stand during our virtual meetings, not to stand up or we wouldn't see each other, but to speak spontaneously and to learn to flow and to fill at least 1 minute of time with our response to the question, to comment about it. I really appreciated Tristan's evaluation and the fact that he really made a point of and looked at and addressed the camera, because this is an issue that over the past 12, 14 months, we have been learning more and more how to have and hold these virtual meetings and to really learn to look into the camera. And that is always good to be reminded of the lessons that we can learn during these virtual meetings and to really use Toastmasters to grow in our communication and leadership skills. That's it. I'm very happy to have participated in this meeting and very grateful for every one of you who also participated. And now with that, I conclude my general evaluation and hand back to our Toastmaster of the day, Ines.
Thank you very much, Madam General Evaluator, Toastmaster Lily. It was a very fulfilling meeting for me as well. Great contributions by all of you. It's amazing. And I learned a lot. Very informative at several fronts. And one thing I'm still working on is to bring more a gender balance in the meeting. I'm working on it, and I hope that we all will be working on it also in the coming weeks or months. Could I now turn control of the meeting to Tristan, the president, for his closing of the meeting. Toastmaster Tristan.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Ines, for running this meeting, and you and your team. I think it was a good meeting. I just would like to close and say just one of 2 points. In May, the club will hold its annual general meeting. You know, as every club, you have to meet once a year. So we will do this at one of our regular meeting. I don't know if we have fixed the date. We will be also looking for people interested to take roles in the committee of the clubs, as we have to rotate on a yearly basis, and that's part of I think the rules in Toastmasters. So just to give you some information that this is coming, and that if you're interested, think about it. I think it's a great opportunity to engage yourself in the club, but also to make yourself a bit more active and taking more roles on stuff like this. So I invite you to think about that. Our next meeting is now scheduled for the 11th of May. And we will have a meeting that's a lunchtime meeting, and we will have a week later on the 18th of May, an evening meeting at 6 o'clock, also on a Tuesday, and followed by the third meeting of the month in May, which will be on the 25th of May. So either on the 11th or the 25th of May, most likely maybe the second one, we will be running a short annual general assembly at the start of the meeting. On that note, I thank you all for having joined us today, and we're right on time or even ahead of time. So I let you all return. Maybe Ivana, you want to say something? And
Yes.
it's my duty to turn back to you also to have your feedback as a guest to this meeting and maybe to share some thought of it. So over to you, Ivana.
Thank you. I have to say that I learned about your club from my roommate in B building, Ramiro, who was attending meetings and trying to persuade me after each meeting to join the club. And then, as you heard, I joined Toastmasters only in 2018. And from the beginning, I started to regret that I took the step so late. Now I'm back in Vienna because since 2011, I have been with the agency, only I changed the duty station. And I'm looking for the home club where I can attend meetings in person. So obviously, because of the location, you are my first choice, but also what I saw during the meeting, how the meeting was well prepared, structured, conducted, the atmosphere and professionalism, it attracts me. So you will see me for sure back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ivana, for your words and appreciation, and we look forward to see you coming back and eventually joining us. So welcome at any time to join us and take a role. On that note, I thank you all very much for having come today to the meeting. I hope you learned something, you got feedback on something, and you had an entertaining moment. Speech is also an art, but it's also entertainment. So on that note, wish you a great day. Bye-bye. See you soon.